Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope everyone has taken some time off for the 4th of July. And I'll share the message I shared in our role-playing sessions. And if you're not attending the role-playing sessions, you want to look yourself in the mirror and say, why am I choosing to lose money? Literally. Because if you don't know what to say, you're going to lose money. And every year we lose tens of thousands of dollars and well over $1 million in our career because we simply just don't know what to say. Everything in real estate is a conversation. Everything. So one of the concepts that I want to share with you today, which you guys can't see, I'll bring this screen a little closer to behind me, is as we talk about sharing the market, I don't want to just give you the fish. I want to teach you how to fish. So has anyone ever heard of conversation mapping? I wouldn't imagine that you have because, well, Corey, you have, right? Because you've been here. This is a Shirag thing. So conversation mapping is understanding how to map out a conversation. So I was talking to somebody about networking the other day, right? So it's like, hi, how are you? What do you do? Tell me more about that. What made you start? How long you're doing it? That's a conversation map. Then like the FAQs are like, oh, so how long ago did you start your business? Why did you start your business? What's your marketing plan? Who's your ideal market? You can identify all of these things in advance. All of them. Right? So when we talk about sharing the market, objection handling, a buyer consultation, all of these things can literally be mapped out in a conversation. True or false, right? True or false in the chat. Aren't 80% of the conversations that you have with somebody selling their home very similar? Yes, 100%. So the question is, why aren't we mapping them all out and then mastering the words? Simple, because we didn't know how to do it. So congratulations, plausible deniability is no longer on the table for the 60 plus of you here today. So you start your conversation map. The first part of the conversation today is about sharing the market, right? So the first part about the conversation is, before we discuss positioning your home on the market, would it be okay if we align on one simple concept? Let me pull this up on my other screen. So then in your conversation map, you would go through this. You control, I control, no one controls. The key to doing this is asking the question and having them answer the question. If you're working with somebody who's not a feelings, family, like introverted accountant and finance people, I would say to you, Ross, would you agree? Ross is a very direct man and a man of few words, kind of from the few conversations that him and I have had through here. I'd say, Ross, would you agree that you can control the asking price, condition that you put your home on the market, the terms you offer a buyer, and ultimately the accessibility? Yep, right. If not, right, I would say, hey, Ross, can you control the asking price? And say yes. The condition of which you choose to market. Right. So we would go through this and you go through it ultimately like this, right? What you can control, then what I can control, and you want to seed it by saying is the agent you choose to partner with. You walk through this part, and then you say the last one. Can I, not that no one can control, can either one of us control World events, no. Local economy, no. Stock markets, no. What the Fed does with interest rates, no. The prices your neighbors are willing to accept for homes, no. And lastly, the prices a buyer is willing to pay for a home, no. So would you agree, Ross? It's a partnership of what you can offer and what you can control and what I control, ultimately working against what neither one of us can control. Of course.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah. See, it seems to be direct and to the point, my man. Now, look, here's the important part. If somebody does not agree to this, run. Literally run. Thank you, Martha. Run. Run, run, run. Don't walk, run. Because this shows that the person does not care about your expertise, your logic. They operate from a different set of principles and thought process, which is not good for you, right? Then I would say, Ross, let's discuss how we are going to position your home on the market. Now, does anyone want to share with me in a 2 to 3 minute monologue how they go about presenting comps today? Okay, great. Nobody. Well, another lovely thing that the National Association of Realtors has done, it's like you pull out your laptop, your iPad, your papers, and you're going to say, all right, let me go through our CMA. Like, what the hell does that even mean, right? Or let's go through the comparable homes in your market, or let's discuss the pricing of your home. Well, pricing, when we think about pricing anything, there's a winner or loser. There's nothing collaborative about price. Positioning is elevated, it's sophisticated, it's luxury, it makes you sound better, and it's how we do things. I want we, not me or you, we. It's like being in a relationship. It's not how, all right, I would say, Andrew, let me discuss how I'm going to make a budget that we can follow. That just feels like shit. Hey, can we discuss how we can plan a budget so we can reach our goals? It's a lot better. Right? Or can we identify the necessary changes we have to make so that we can hit our savings goals? Sounds a lot better than anything else, right? I love people like Martha. The group leaders always lead. So here's the thing. Stop presenting comparable properties like a lecture. Remember, if you say this phone is black, no one's going to believe you. You're a salesperson. What do they think the salesperson wants? To sell their home in the shortest amount of time for the least amount of money possible so they can earn their commission. That's what they're thinking. The next thing that they're thinking that no one thinks about, they're getting paid a lot of money. So they just want to get the sale done so they can make their money. So it's like sometimes you have to help people understand this is like, look, if I sell your house for $100,000 less, right? I'm making $1,000 less too, but it's $1,000. It doesn't have an impact on me. Now, you need to stop going, you see this home? Do you recognize this home? This home is your neighborhood. Let's look at it. You see the upgrades? Blah, 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 blah. If you did this to me, like I would literally tune out. I'm the type of person, I'm like Ross, like, let's just cut to the chase. All right, so what are you telling me? How much, like, then I'd be start going at you. So I don't want to hear it. I want to share the market with somebody else, right? I want to start by education. I would say, Ross, there are really 3 key factors that go into position your home on the market that we use to base our decision off of. Are you aware, Ross, of what they are? You can unmute yourself.
No, I'm not aware. Would you share?
Yeah, so days on market, ultimately how long a house was on the market before a buyer chose to purchase it. List price to sales price, what you, the seller, wanted for the home, and what a buyer was willing to pay for the home, which will show up as a percentage, and then ultimately the sales price. Now, Those are the three key factors that go into positioning your home on the market. And ultimately, we're going to want to look at homes that are similar in condition and size and amenities as yours. Does that make sense to you? Would you agree to that thought process?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Is there anything else that you feel is valuable that should be added into the decision-making matrix of positioning your home on the market?
Well, I think it's important to acknowledge the updates that I've made in my home and how they make it better than the other homes. Um, which it sounds like we're going to compare them fairly.
Yeah, 100%. And remember when we walked around your home, I have all these notes about the things you love most, the updates you made, the things you're most excited about. And all of that will go into the part that I can control, the marketing, visual, story, the advertising campaign, and the way that we execute.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Ross, I went back 90 days originally, right? And I only found one home that transacted. So ultimately I went back 6 months and I found 5 other homes in the market, which I believe are as close to the condition of yours as possible, right? So let's look at 123 Main Street. Are you familiar with that house in your neighborhood?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that place, it was okay, but not as nice as mine.
Okay, perfect. So let's look at this, right? Let's look at those three key numbers. How many days was it on the market?
It looks like 30 days.
30 days, great. What was the list price to sales price that the seller wanted versus what the buyer paid? What was the percentage?
Yeah. It looks like they sold it for 900. They had it listed for 950.
It's about 98%, right? Or 95%, let's just say, right? So there was a 5% discount given by the seller, and ultimately it sold for 950, right? And I would literally go through this in all of the different scenarios, right? Number one, for you, you need a range in mind. Do not give them an exact number because you're not an appraiser, right? It's number one. Number two, at the end of doing this, I'm going to turn around. So Ross, so what I hear you saying is homes that are similar to yours are on the market for about 35 days. They're being sold. Other buyers are willing to pay and sellers are willing to accept a 5% discount. And ultimately they trade at 950. So based on that information, where do you feel most comfortable presenting your home, positioning your house on?
Well, yeah, I mean, I want to get as much money as I possibly can, right? So shouldn't I list it? Shouldn't I list it as high as I comfortably can?
Great. So one, what I hear you saying is you want to maximize the equity in your home. And two, you want to review the pros and cons of listing it at the highest price possible.
Yeah.
So Ross, we discussed that you're moving and you're going to be a buyer.
Yep.
So what factors first go into the homes that you search for?
Well, they need to be in the area that we're interested in. And they need to be in the condition that we're looking for, meaning like we're looking for turnkey and of course the bedrooms and bathrooms and all of that.
And does price play a factor, like in the way that you set up your search?
Oh, absolutely.
So here's my question. If a home was listed at 1,000,001, but really they're trading at 950, would that home even show up on your search?
No, that's interesting. Yeah.
And if you reviewed the market with your agent and you saw $1,000,000 homes are getting a 5% discount, you wouldn't think a home that was 1,000,001 would get almost a 10, 12% discount.
Yeah, when you put it that way.
And the third factor is if homes are priced accurately, right, based on what other buyers are willing to pay for homes, the 1,000,001 home that should be 950 would look really probably, would you think it'd look different than all the homes that were actually 1,000,001?
Well, I mean, if it's really worth 1,000,001, then it should look different.
About the tune of $150,000 different, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that seller would be doing a good service to them by putting their houses at the same price point of ones that are actually nicer than theirs?
No, I mean, it's not going to look good by comparison.
And now, do you think that most buyers think to a similar process and decision-making matrix that you do?
Probably. I think people are relatively on top of the ball when it comes to this.
So based on this, I was saying, knowing what you now know today and the conversation we have, where do you think to maximize your equity, the best place to position your home would be?
Well, probably more in that range of what it's ultimately going to sell for.
Yeah, so I would suggest the range of 950 to 999, right? We know even at 999, they get down to 950, right? At 950, you might create a bidding war where ideally we want as much interest as possible and people bidding on emotion, not just logic, where there's a chance that the house will get bid up. But the one thing is what buyers are willing to pay for homes, the market will always dictate, and that's something neither one of us can control. So based on that, Ross, where do you think we should list your house?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of creating a bidding war. 950, if we could potentially do that, then that seems interesting.
Yeah, look, it also mitigates against your downside. Like we know that this is what other buyers are willing to pay for homes based on the other 6 homes I've sold in the last 6 months. So ultimately, if there's a market shift that we don't know about, because neither one of us has a crystal ball for world events, the local economy, stock markets, interest rates, right? If something changes and at 950 we're getting no demand, it's better to be at 950 than 999. Wouldn't you agree? Do
Sure.
you have any questions?
No. Thanks for walking me through this. I'm afraid of not maximizing my equity, and I appreciate you explaining, how pricing too high could actually hurt me in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. And look, the other part is if you did want to do this and you're firm on doing this, I would say let's list 999 as a private exclusive, use our whole pre-launch method of private exclusive, feedback, coming soon, and all those other things. And then choose based on how much activity you have if you want to do it. And look, you potentially sell off market. So is this all right? So let me ask you, is this a complicated process to do? Everyone shake their head and say no. There is no special gift of life I had to do this. None. Right? At the end, if you wanted to go to 1-1, I would get him to do a private exclusive and everything else and blah, 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 blah. You guys know the rest of that. And say to him, based on that, are you okay improving the price? If a home took to sell in 30 days, the last thing I would agree to is he could list at 1-1. I would literally go him and show him the houses that traded at 1-1 compared to his. And like, you see how I made the experience about him, not saying, well, buyer's going to look at comps and this is what they're going to think. And no. I don't need to do that because what I need to see is testing the way that he thinks, right? Will he understand, right? If it's a strong personality, like Andrea has a strong personality, she's like, right. Like she will confront somebody if she has to. I think we're friends now, Andrew, right? I can tell you this, right? Yeah. So she's like, yeah, Chirag, this is great. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna say, great. So when you go buy a house, Andrew, just in the same tone. So when I bring a house that's in the same condition as yours, and I'm pushing you to buy it at the same price at houses that clearly have $150,000 upgrades, you're not gonna hate me or fire me as your agent and say that I don't know what I'm doing. And she'd be like, wait, that's a good point. You need to know when to push back. Right? It's part of this, right? Then there's the person that has the scenario. Amy, I see your hand, but I'll get to you before we're done. There is the person that has the my home is unique. My house is special. Meanwhile, all their special upgrades were for their preferences that most likely other people won't like, or something. There's a value that's given on an appraisal based on a C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, I think it's or C4 condition, right? 4 different conditions. Then there's things that people like, I call them experience upgrades. A highly customized closet to somebody like me that loves clothes and shoes and suits and all kinds of stuff, right? I would pay a premium for that, but a bank isn't going to give a premium for that. They're not going to care. There's a balance. So for him, I would ask him, remember that saying? Great. So you feel like, so what I hear you saying, Ross, is you want to maximize the equity in your home.
Yeah, that's right, for sure.
And same scenario. And you're so what I hear you saying is, so what you're really getting to is since you feel we have the best marketing plan that we could potentially set a record for your home in your neighborhood.
I mean, Yeah, I don't want to be greedy, but that sounds great.
Great. So, I brought my pen and paper. I'd have my legal notepad, right? Neuro Association legal notepad. So let's walk around and share with me specifically what you did and how much it costs so that when we market to buyers and their agents, we're able to justify the pricing.
Mm.
And then I'd walk them around the house, blah, 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 blah. And I would say, Ross, if you're putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, if we're giving you credit for your upgrades, is it fair? I don't even really like this word, but it's good for this scenario. Is it fair to say that we have to give buyers potential credits to update your kitchen to the kitchens in the other homes of similar price? And oh, yeah. And they get to a roundabout way. Then the third person is they're really tied to it and everything else. You're going to say, look, all of you need to get an appraisal report, right? Keep an appraisal report with you. Highlight all the specific adjustments. You know how they make adjustments for condition, lot size, square footage, rooms, and everything like that. But look, I'm really committed to Ross, you maximizing your equity. And as you shared what your motivation was and what you're most excited about, is that happening? So here's what I want to do. Are you familiar with what an appraisal report looks like?
No.
They make specific adjustments, like you said, and like you wanted for every update you have in your home. So let's pinpoint what that full value is. In agreement with us working together, I will invest the money into that. Where look, if you don't want to list your house with me, you have to refund the money and you have the information. If not, I'll eat the cost and go get an appraiser. A real estate agent is not going to be able to do this. Because are you familiar that an appraiser has blank amount of hours before they can even get a license, right? There's an insane amount of shadowing requiring, and that's why it's so hard for people to become appraisers today, and why it's like a dwindling feed, and the ones you have are so busy. So these are all the different conversation maps in sharing the market. And by the way, at the end of it, and I shared this in the morning call as well, if you're not comfortable with what they're doing, I would turn around. There's a whole stale listing thing that says, look, if you saw a great home on the market, Ross, and homes are selling in 30 days, and 90 days later, this home was there, what would you think? I think Ross froze. That there was something wrong with the home, right? Like imagine going to a bakery and seeing the most amazing pastry that was out there for 3, 4, 5 days a week. And it had the right price to it, right? Where you looked at like a cake or a pastry like that, that's a good deal. What does your brain tell you? Because it's been sitting there so long. What's wrong with it? Look, these conversations work really well. And at the end of it, if they were a bad fit and they didn't agree to any of the things I wanted to do, I'd say, Ross, look, you had shared with me, this is a reason you really want to make this a move. And like really excited, what you're most excited about was blank, right? I know based on the things that neither one of us can control and what your neighbors have accepted for their home and both what buyers are willing to pay, I cannot commit to getting you an outcome that based on data has not happened in the last 4 years. So I think it's best that I just raise my hand and say I'm not the right fit for you, because what I don't want to do is agree to something that based on data and what neither one of us control is not possible. Then have you live like your house is a museum. Always be on your toes for a showing, pack up and leave. Sometimes people cancel and just losing all the things that you shared with me. And I go back to what you love about the story, those evenings you have in the room, the parties, because you're not going to be able to do these things necessarily without a lot of additional works while you have your home on the market. I just don't find that the right thing to do. So it's nothing to do with you. I'd love to work with you, but it's me. Like in the relationships, it's not you, it's me, same thing. You just walk away. And I believe that any person that tells you different is ignoring all this data, and I don't think it's in your best interest, as you have pointed out yourself. I'm telling you, if you know how to do this process, I don't care where on earth you go. If you learn how to present a written marketing plan, a communication plan, and how to share the market, you don't need market knowledge. I don't need to know anything in Westport. I can just get an appraiser. And I can convince any person with an open mind in 3 minutes, showing them a report. Why would you ever? I don't even understand why anyone hires agents to do pricing for them. I pay for, if I'm selling my house, I'm paying for an appraisal. I'm paying for an appraisal and I'm paying for my own inspection. So I have all the answers to the test. Then I'm going to figure out what changes I need to make so that a buyer can't ask for any credit. I'm going to share the inspection report and let them know and disclose everything so they know they're making an offer based on the condition of the home, gives them additional security. And then I'm going to look at the full market value and figure out with my agent how I could create the most demand and how I could strategically leverage my position. Thank you, Lenny. All right, Amy has a question, and then that should wrap us up for today.
So I was curious your opinion on the adjustments that are within the CMA, the Compass CMA tool. I use the square foot adjustments, the market, the value adjustments within a neighborhood, like pool, that sort of thing. Like, it's complicated. Like, how in depth or not in depth do you get with a client regarding that? Because when I'm having a really hard time finding comps, which I have lately, I've really had to use that tool. And some people don't understand it.
I don't understand it, right? Like I'm a homeowner, right? So
Yeah.
you ever hear the mom, go sit in your room in silence with your timer like we do for 60 seconds and you'll feel what it's like for the people.
But you
Right.
have to use it sometimes, Chirag, like to build your story of even the price that they want. But
In these aspirational prices, if the people, if the people are really stuck on it, I would use it to the best of my ability to start a conversation. But in this, if they check all my buckets, like they have a good motivation to move, something they're excited about, they're time bound by a deadline, they're realistic on what they want to do, and they're just trying to figure out a price, go make friends with an appraiser. And I would tell them that I'm going to pay for this to pinpoint the exact value of their home. Right? I would show them the report, and then I'm going to pay for an hour consultation with the appraiser to discuss all the homes that are in contract and things we don't know on the market to get the best information.
I have another question. So you were saying, seller, what do you think we should list the price at based on all the conversation that you just had? I often have that range included in the CMA already as to my recommended price range. Are you saying to leave that blank and to always ask them first before you even give your suggestion?
Always ask them first.
Always, because I usually have that on there when I've completed the CMA and then we're reviewing it.
Exactly. Reviewing it's a college style lecture.
So don't put the price in at all.
Nope.
Unless you're sitting there with them and you ask them first.
Yeah. You ever know negotiating, whoever speaks first loses? You ever hear that?
Well, I send my CMA in advance of the meeting usually. So you're saying don't even do that.
No, I could say I would send the CMA. I would say review the homes, the adjustments, and everything else, and let's have a more
But no pricing information on it. No.
And I would say the goal of the CMA in advance is to get familiar with the days on market, what sellers wanted for their homes, what buyers like. I would do that. I'd go record a nice video. Hey, Amy, you're seeing one of these CMAs. Here's how I want you to approach reviewing this information. And what success looks like at the end of it, just like Robert says, is that you feel comfortable and confident, at least having a basic understanding before we meeting about the homes that are similar to yours, how long they're on the market, what they got for what price they got for the home versus what they wanted, and ultimately what buyers are willing to pay for homes. And then write down any questions you have. Ideally, if you could send them to me in advance, I'll make sure to have all the information that's most helpful for you prepared. And then say, how many days was on the market? Follow the process. And then if you have some of these like people in Westward, all right, cut to the chase, great. It's 950 to $1 million. Why want $1,000,001? Perfect. Like, and then just know, have those saved collections and say $1,000,001 and then go through that talk track, right? Like you have a very, like I live here, so I can tell you this, right? There's a very specific persona around like Westport, Weston, Fairfield. They're either like type A finance, accountant, like those kinds of people, or like the artsy feelings people, right? And there's some people that have a husband and wife and both.
Now, my clients are, I don't want to hear you talk. Cut to the chase. What's the price? I don't care what the marketing is. Blah, 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 blah. You know, like, and as much as I love your talk track, I can't even get those words out. I mean, I'm getting like, you know, like
Great. So you just
hammered on both sides by the two people. So
So it's asking them that you need to
Hard.
understand, like, it's sales, right? You
Mhm.
might have a husband that wants to cut to the chase and a wife that actually wants to hear the information. Men are
Mhm.
notorious for trying to minimize processes just to get to an outcome, where a woman will want to go through the outcome and hear all of it, right?
Hmm.
Right. And I would turn around to somebody that says, I don't care about the marketing. I don't care about all this stuff. I would say, great. So what's most important to you about an agent and company that represents you in the sale of this home? And see what the hell they say. They're going to tell you. Then that comes up in your talk track. But you all need to sit here and start mapping these conversations out, because they're the same conversations you have every day, all the time. All right, I have to jump. I'm 1 minute late to another call, but
Okay,
bring this. If you have questions on scenarios, we have live role playing at 12:30.
cool. Thanks.
On down. All right, everyone. With love in my heart. I love you all. We'll add the resources to this recording. The you control, I control, no one controls. So no need to worry. And guys, we got this. We are like so much further ahead of everybody else. And Abby, I hope you're enjoying Boca in Chicago. Bye, everybody.